With that, I will turn it over to the distinguished ranking member, Senator Shaheen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Secretary Rubio. Mr. Secretary, you were a senator. You sat on this committee. You sat on the Intelligence Committee. You know as well as anyone that effective American foreign policy requires a strong partnership with Congress. Allies need to know that our commitments can stand the test of time, and that only happens if Congress is brought into the discussion. Congress cannot be a partner if it's kept in the dark. I have a long list of unanswered requests sitting on your department's desk. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask that these letters be submitted for the record.
They'll be submitted.
Thank you. I've requested a briefing on changes to U.S. force posture in Europe, and after 33 days, we still have no response. We've requested a briefing from the Iran war on displacement. After 90 days, we still have no response. We've asked for a briefing on Ukraine on a number of issues. After 180 days, we still have no response. We've asked for a briefing on lifting Milorad Dodik's sanctions. And after 225 days, we still have no response. We've asked for a briefing for the U.S. Agency for Global Media. No response after 344 days. The Romanian visa program termination. We've followed up 5 times over 435 days, and we've still gotten no response. In January, when you were before this committee, I asked if you would report to this committee once an audit system was in place to track Venezuelan oil revenues. You said, and I quote, "Oh, absolutely, yeah, we are still waiting." And when you do notify Congress, it's to inform us of decisions you have already made. That is not consultation, as you well know. That is not advice and consent. Congress has been clear on a bipartisan basis. We do not want to cede ground to China. Yet this administration is closing consulates and cutting funding in the Indo-Pacific. The same pattern extends to global health. USAID supported Ebola detection and prevention activities in DRC and Uganda for years. And we can see in this poster, even Elon Musk admitted that one of the things we accidentally canceled, very briefly, was Ebola prevention. Well, those programs were dismantled. And today we have to screen for Ebola at Dulles Airport rather than in the DRC and Uganda more than 7,000 miles away. You're asking for a 44% reduction in the State Department budget. That includes eliminating funding to the World Health Organization. It includes eliminating all disease-specific funds in the middle of an Ebola crisis that's affecting Americans. Yet, no one from your department can explain to us why this is a good idea. You sent Congress one notification saying you needed $19 billion to close out USAID. Then you sent another saying you needed some of that money to respond to disease outbreaks. Congress has asked for an explanation, and we still have not received one. The same pattern extends to our alliances. I just returned from a bipartisan delegation to the Arctic. We are on the verge of losing the very alliances that we have built for decades because the president manufactured a crisis over Greenland. And nowhere is that clearer than with Russia. In 2017, you wrote, as a senator, that Vladimir Putin will never be a trusted ally or a reliable, constructive partner. But since taking office, you, the president, the vice president, Steve Witkoff, not one of you has been to Ukraine. And yet, your envoys talk to Putin on a regular basis. The president has invited him, given him the red carpet treatment on American soil. But yet, you won't come up here and brief Congress on any of it. And decisions Congress has made on Russia have been systematically undermined. Congress passed support for Ukraine. The administration has slow-walked it. And instead of sanctioning Russia, the administration issued oil licenses that have sent billions to Moscow. Congress has asked what this approach has produced. Russia has conducted 5 times more drone strikes on Ukraine since 2024. More U.S. businesses are being directly targeted than at any point in this conflict. And Russia is providing targeting intelligence to help Iran hit our facilities and personnel in the Middle East, while we're helping them fund this war. When I talk to my constituents, they ask for economic relief at home, not regime change in Havana or Caracas or Tehran. Instead, you sent Congress a war powers notification saying we are not in active hostilities with Iran, while the U.S. was conducting strikes against Iran and Iran was bombing U.S. embassies and bases throughout the Middle East. That was not consultation. It was an attempt to avoid answering to this committee and this Congress about this war. Congress has asked basic questions about the war. Why are roughly half of our Patriot interceptor stockpiles gone? Why does the Strait of Hormuz remain closed? Why is gas up $1.50? Why did 13 American service members lose their lives in this war? Congress deserves to know why, and Americans deserve to know why. Mr. Secretary, you would not have stood for this kind of stonewalling by the administration when you were a senator, and you certainly shouldn't stand for it as Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.
The maintenance of a cohesive foreign policy matrix requires absolute data transparency between executive agencies and congressional committees. Senator Jeanne Shaheen recently established a rigorous critical baseline against Secretary Marco Rubio, exposing a systematic multi-month embargo on vital national security metrics. Shaheen entered hard temporal data documenting severe administrative delays on mandatory statutory updates, including a 180-day freeze on Ukraine conflict updates, a 225-day delay on Milorad Dodik sanction profiles, and a 344-day informational vacuum regarding the U.S. Agency for Global Media. This administrative stonewalling directly compromises the statutory, advice, and consent frameworks that underwrite American international commitments. Lightbulb the data curiosity. This institutional clash highlights a profound strategic friction. Senator Shaheen serves as a senior member of the Senate Appropriations Committee, the body that dictates exact funding line items for the State Department's operational budget. Secretary Rubio is currently attempting to execute a sweeping 44% budget contraction across the foreign affairs portfolio, including a $19 billion closeout mandate for USAID infrastructure. When Shaheen presents hard data showing that Russia has accelerated its drone strike deployment fivefold against Ukraine since 2024 while utilizing domestic oil licensing loopholes to bypass Western sanctions, she is demonstrating a direct correlation between executive informational blockades and quantifiable strategic regression. The policy failure turns catastrophic when looking at the global health and defense portfolios. Shaheen exposed that the administration's aggressive dismantling of USAID programs has forced American airports like Dallas-Fort Worth to screen for active Ebola cases on domestic soil rather than containing outbreaks 7,000 miles away in Africa. Despite this domestic crisis, Rubio is demanding a sweeping 44% reduction in the State Department budget, including a total elimination of disease-specific funds and cutting all funding to the World Health Organization. Turning directly to the war in Europe, Shaheen reminded Rubio of his own 2017 senatorial declaration that Vladimir Putin would never be a trusted partner, yet exposed that while no top U.S. leader has stepped foot in Ukraine, administration envoys are rolling out the red carpet for Putin on American soil while slow-walking pre-approved military aid. Capitol Watch highlights Shaheen's definitive conclusion. The administration's policy has backfired spectacularly, triggering 5 times more Russian drone strikes on Ukraine since 2024, depleting half of America's Patriot interceptor stockpiles and leaving gas up by an astronomical $1.50 at home. They're cutting off global health containment and rolling out the red carpet for foreign dictators while completely hiding the true cost of an active war from the American public. Hit the like button if you believe our officials should answer to the people instead of stonewalling Congress, and subscribe to Capitol Watch right now. Turn on notifications to stay completely locked into the unvarnished truth from Capitol Hill.